Few things feel better than a Friday headed into not just the weekend, but a vacation the following week, right? So, travelers, as you're checking in on your briefing heading into the weekend, let's talk about the details. We're going to talk about earthquakes, Raymond, Jerry, Karen, the whole family. And then, of course, we'll spend the majority of our time on this developing nor'easter that has made the Bahamas and Florida so messy all this week. But, of course, the story is, what are we going to get up in the Northeast? So let's dive into details and get into your travel weather forecast. I'm going to start with airport hubs today. As going into Saturday morning, a lot of our hubs look absolutely fantastic. No major weather issues, but fog in some areas. Like in Dallas, we may see some patchy fog. It does not look like it'll get so thick that it's going to slow us down as far as DFW or Love Field, but just making note that you might actually see a little bit of haze or fog first thing in the morning. Could be a little thicker for us in Houston, might even get down to about a half a mile visibility at moments during the morning, as well as New Orleans. We'll see that as a possibility both for South Texas and South Louisiana. Still some storms in Miami as well as the Bahama ports. I'll show you in just one second. And we're looking at a lovely forecast and nice cool fall weather in New York at 66 and 69 in Philadelphia. Want to hit pause for a second, and we'll dive into this in the graphics too, but Phoenix, we're in about a 4-day stretch of strong to potentially severe thunderstorms and a flooding threat. So not only getting to the airport or out of the airport, but also flights. We could run into some delays any day over the weekend and the first couple days of next week. Again, I'll show you the graphics in a moment, but that's the huge call out I want to make out of all of our hubs this weekend and early next week. Phoenix looks to be fairly problematic. So quickly into the Bahamas for the cruisers. About a 40% coverage of storms possible in the Bahamas on and off through the day. That's the developing nor'easter. But after that, starting Sunday, both Florida and the Bahamas, rain coverage goes way down and dry air moves in. So you'll actually see a lower humidity. Should feel absolutely amazing. Falmouth, passing storms are possible. Same in Puerto Plata and Ocho Rios. In the west, only isolated chances in Cancun, Costa Maya, and Cozumel with highs around 90 degrees. Seas will be continued to be just slightly elevated around Aruba, Barbados, and St. Kitts. Of course, St. Kitts one is some swell from Jerry, same for St. Thomas. None of these swell and waves are concerning for me that you're going to be missing ports in these areas of the Caribbean. Now, that's not the case as we head into the East Pac and Cabo San Lucas, which again, talk about in just one moment. As we get into the graphics, shall we start? This first idea, or first thing we're talking about is the earthquakes. A lot of them in Philippines over the last 24 hours. In fact, we have seen 7.4 that was in the early morning hours for us, and followed up about 10 hours later by 6.7 around Santiago in the Philippines. So it's been very active in this region. Just want to pause for a moment because a lot of you know that with earthquakes, especially ones at sea, you can get tsunamis. And I do get asked from time to time, what happens if there is a tsunami warning and I'm in a port that day? Safest place for a ship is actually out in the deeper waters and out at sea. So one of the things I was more concerned about when I was a chief med at Royal Caribbean was, is there a ship tied up in areas that we have a tsunami warning? Now here's what will happen. Alarms and alerts will go off like crazy on the bridge. So they will not miss it. It's not something that, oh, I forgot to check. They will be drawn into it to see what the alert and the warnings are. And if it is tied up in port, the best thing they can do is let go all lines and get that ship off the pier, get it out just outside of the port into some deeper waters. But if you're on land, of course, that's alarming. Where's my ship going? Did they just leave me here? No. So long as there's not significant damage and it's a small tsunami or not minimal impact whatsoever, they will come back. But you get to higher ground if you're in the port as quickly as possible, and the ship should be leaving temporarily and then come back, scoop you up, and then resume activities. But I do get asked about that sometimes. And again, the safest place is not tied to that pier. So don't be surprised if you are ever in this unique situation and you see your ship sailing away. It needs to do that, and you need to get to higher ground too. So having said that, shall we dive into a couple of the storms that we're talking about? Raymond, for anybody around the Cabo San Lucas area, which is a tender port, of course, but even if you're flying in or if you're there at one of the hotels, this will be a Saturday event, but it is also a weakening system as it comes in. In fact, you can see what was a hurricane will come down to a tropical storm and then just let go as it comes ashore. So yes, there could be some flooding rains because this is a more deserty area in the climate of Mexico and Baja California. But other than that, I'm not expecting too many problems from Raymond. Jerry also on track to pass south of the island of Bermuda, so I'm not too concerned there. You can see here's Hamilton, and this will pass well south as a pretty weak storm by that time. In fact, the front that comes through will have more impact in Bermuda with strong northeast winds and bring some chop to the area around the island. And then Karen. Just like the Karens of COVID and the last couple of years, this is a complete disappointment, and I'm just so upset. It's so weak and just irrelevant. In fact, let me show you. There's little Karen. It will eventually fall apart. One thing I want to mark for those of you out in the North Sea, in the Mediterranean, Bay of Biscay, the following week, not this week coming up, but the following week, the European model is painting a pretty large storm around the UK and Ireland. So I'm marking that as one we need to come back to in next week's videos and just check on the models and see if that is indeed something that could be concerning for us or not. So pause there. I'm coming to the nor'easter just very quickly. As I mentioned, I want to come back to the Phoenix area, and you can see the area, much of the state, not just Phoenix, but we are looking at overnight thunderstorms. So again, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, strong, possibly severe storms, and the flooding threat will be there. But as we take you through the day on Saturday, you can see more develops out here, south of Prescott, west of Phoenix. And on Sunday, it's kind of dancing all around the metro. So that's why I say it's not just Saturday's forecast, but also Sunday and also Monday. And then eventually Tuesday, that'll start to push on. But, you know, that's a good 72 hours of some weather that could be problematic for driving as well as getting flights in and out of the area. So, all right, now to our developing nor'easter and what we're going to get. Here's the European model. And addressing the Northeast, because that's what a lot of you, in fact, most of you are asking about, is getting ships in and out of here. There's been some slight change in the timing of the highest winds. We're still going to have incredibly strong winds on Sunday, you know, in that 30, 40 mile an hour range in the Northeast, especially around areas of the New York Harbor, Bayonne, and just outside the Verrazano Bridge. But we'll see it all along the Jersey coast, Delaware, and Maryland coastlines too, and up into the Chesapeake Bay. But those really high winds you see there of around 50 miles an hour, and that's sustained, by the way. That's not gusts. Sustained. That will actually look to be pushing back more towards Monday on the Long Island, New York Harbor, and Jersey coastlines, and just kind of sit there through Tuesday. So that's one of the big takeaways I want you to have, is that this looks to be a longer duration high wind event, and our highest winds could actually be Monday and Tuesday, although that doesn't mean it won't be windy on Sunday. So what does that mean for the ships? Now, Symphony of the Seas, as we understand, already sent out some notifications to those of you headed to the ship to try to get there 2 hours earlier and board 2 hours early. This might mean that they're going to try to let go lines and try to get out of there early, because these high northeast winds that we talked about, the pier sits in a northwest to southeast fashion in Bayonne, where the cruise ship is there. So a northeast wind, potentially with high enough winds, could pin it to the pier and they could have trouble getting off. And with this being a high wind, long duration event, that would be my fear, is that you get stuck on that pier for 3 days. And of course, that run out of Bayonne down to Florida and the Bahamas is a very high speed run, noted by the 1 o'clock Port Canaveral arrival, the 12:30 into Nassau. So if we are delayed getting off of the pier, and they'll use tugs and everything they can to get off with these higher winds, but if that's delayed, nobody's saying this is the itinerary change, but what I could see happening from, again, my previous time routing the Royal Caribbean fleet, if we're late getting out of Bayonne, we probably would just scrub Port Canaveral and the Orlando stop. However, if we can make up some of that time in the difference by, that 7-hour window you would have been in Port Canaveral, if some of that can be made up, you might arrive into Nassau earlier and have longer time there in the Bahamas, then of course go to Coco Cay and have your 2 sea days back. None of that has been said that that's Royal Caribbean's plan. I just want to give you what are some of the options that they're thinking about and considering should we see us stuck at the pier in Bayonne. And that's not even a guarantee. The Symphony has a lot of thrust with the engines, but I think 3 large engines, 3 small engines, and with the azipods and everything. I think with tugs, I'm hopeful we can get off the pier. But if that does end up happening, I just want to let you know that is one of the things that could play out. Just want to end real quickly on the tropics, just showing you how some of the models are looking fairly quiet over the next 7 days, tropics, but not the long range forecast. And this is both for the Pacific and the Atlantic and Caribbean basin. Take a look, and even the East Pac, you'll start to see areas of interest and invest start to get more numerous in the following week. So South Asia, Hong Kong up towards Cambodia, Vietnam, East Pac, Mexico, Baja, California, and then of course the Caribbean and the Southeast U.S. coast. Don't let your guard down, although we'll have several days of really nothing to worry about here pretty soon. But just don't write off the hurricane season yet, I guess would be my main message, as we are, for the most part, again, going to be fairly quiet for a few days. So that is your briefing heading into this weekend. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. The best thing, if you want to ask a question, drop it in the comments. I'll be checking and scanning those through the rest of today and through the weekend. And you can get as granular as you want. And I think that's where this YouTube channel, Traveling Weather, will really serve you the best. The briefings are nice. I love talking to you and seeing to you and talking about the science and everything. But where I really think will provide the most value to you is you asking about a specific ship, an itinerary, a specific flight. And I will do that work for you. I'll be your personal travel meteorologist. So anything you want to ask about, please do so. And one last thing, because one sweet lady mentioned Liberty of the Seas and how I did not mention that in the briefing. If I'm not bringing the ship up or the area up or the day up, chances are that you're going to be okay. There is not expected to be delays or changes in itineraries. And instead, I'm using this time to focus on more a higher threat of a ship changing an itinerary or getting stuck, or same with the flights and the airports and delays. But don't hesitate to ask. If you didn't hear about it in the briefing, go ahead and ask, and I'll dive into it and get you the specific details either way. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Monday, if not sooner. If this nor'easter warrants and we need to get on over the weekend, I'll do so. But otherwise, I'll see you on Monday, and have a great time and enjoy your travel.